I am Lawrence Chuno, and this is Doing Jazz. Hello everyone and welcome to Doing Jazz. My name is Lawrence Chuno and this episode is with dancer and choreographer Candice Michelle Franklin. Candice is a versatile dancer whose work has ranged from choreographing for Macy Gray to collaborating with pianist Onaje Allan Gumbs. She is the chief choreographer of Jazz Ain't Dead, a touring big band dance production that incorporates jazz music and dance in a very contemporary fashion. Candice is very knowledgeable about the history of dance in America and its roots and connection to jazz music. So I promise that you will learn a lot from this episode. The music playing in the background is called Ain't Necessarily So by Jazz Ain't Dead, sung by Chris Robb. Towards the end, you will hear the song Summertime, sung by Mem Nahadra. After listening to this episode, you can learn more about Candice Michelle Franklin and her project Jazz Ain't Dead by going to the website of the podcast www.doingjazz.net, and you can listen to more episodes of the podcast by subscribing on iTunes, TuneIn, or Stitcher. Okay, without further ado, I present Candice Michelle Franklin in your face.
It ain't necessarily so, no. These things that we're reading in that Bible.
Candice Michelle Franklin, welcome to Doing Jazz.
Thanks for having me here. I'm happy to be here for you.
Great. And I want to apologize because I wasn't really ready when you came in. But we're going to get it rolling. I'm ready now. So what made me contact you was I saw your show, Jazz Ain't Dead, and it's like this show that combines dance and still keeps jazz alive in the dance. Mm-hmm. So that's how about we start with that? Let's talk about the show.
Okay.
Can you give us give me a synopsis,
what the show is?
Yeah, what the show is.
The show is many things.
Okay.
But basically, it came into my head as doing a show where I can play with jazz music in a way that new audiences can enjoy it, younger audiences can appreciate it, and so that I can also create dance where my young dancers can appreciate jazz the way I like to hear it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you know anything about the dance world and doing jazz, we pretty much stop as far as our jazz language, our jazz syllabus. Basically around the 20s and 40s swing era as far as what our jazz is. And then all of a sudden it goes really left, like a prodigal son, into the 1980s where we all of a sudden started doing smooth jazz on top of stuff. But then that kind of really went left. And as soon as you saw like Paula Abdul and Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson come on the scene with their music video style, basically doing jazz syllabus in their music videos, then everybody, tried to do jazz dancing to pop songs rather than keeping it with the music that birthed the dance.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I'm really into black vernacular dance, black vernacular jazz dance, as well as the codified forms, and also major nods to Bob Fosse and Jerome Robbins and things like and excellent choreographers like that, Jack Cole, Matt Maddox, Gus Giordano. These are famous choreographers that I tend to gravitate to, as well as definitely keeping it in the vernacular jazz started within the slave quarters. Those type of dances is what really gets I feel when I create a dance for Jazz Ain't Dead, people to really get involved in watching it, because then once they see that vernacular come out within all this codified with all these great legs and turns and jumps and leaps and everything, once they start seeing that vernacular, especially a lot of the African elements that I kind of bring into it, that's when the audience is really with you every step of the way, no matter what color, what nationality, where you're from or whatever. Once you see the vernacular, that's what ropes people in. And that's what I think also as far as jazz musicians, as they play, once they start coming back into that that freedom that we tend to have as people. That's where the audience like, I feel you, I can feel you, we connect there. But as far as Jazz Ain't Dead, I wanted to create something that we can appreciate as young musicians and young dancers. So basically, I take the classical jazz standard and we rewrite them into house, funk, and soul. So not necessarily a lot of our music is necessarily jazz, quote unquote jazz. But it definitely has the musicianship of jazz musicians, because that's who I use. To be a part of Jazz Ain't Dead, you have to either you look like you under 30. I don't want anybody really. Oh, not that I have an issue with ageism or anything like that.
I understand.
The issue, what I'm trying to do is create I want to see young jazz musicians on stage doing their best to their highest potential, showing, because I have prodigies on stage who are performing as musicians, and I have these excellent prodigy dancers that are doing it too, and I want to bend those two worlds together, showing our artistry within the jazz genre. So to use jazz musicians and have them go a little left playing, with a house song, but with jazz, a lot of jazz. Because I love, for me, I'm a house head first of all, because when I moved to New York, I just fell right into the housing in the 90s. So, and doing that, the jazz, there's always jazz music and jazz musicians playing over house beats, that kind of stuff. So that's where I really kind of came from. So that started with house, but then it materialized into like bossa nova, and a Latin jazz ensemble, and then we got acid jazz and the different, and all these contemporary jazz fusions, funk jazz fusion, new jazz and new slash jazz, those types of jazz that you hear in Brooklyn or in downtown or here uptown in Harlem. The jazz that's actually being created right now, the jazz that these kids from Berkeley are creating, the jazz kids from Juilliard are creating, they're creating some fantastic stuff that no one gets to hear or play unless you're in the clubs of New York City, or unless you're in the clubs of maybe Boston or in California, LA. If you're definitely in Chicago, if you're not in these places, you're not listening to this beautiful, gorgeous music that needs to be danced to. And us as dancers are totally ignoring it because we're too busy trying to be flavor of the day. Trying to be hip hop, trying to be this, trying to be that. That is fine. I mean, my show is called Jazz Ain't Dead. But it ain't called Hip Hop Ain't Dead. Because hip hop ain't dead. As of it's almost there. But it's not. But it's not. It's not dead. And we definitely have some hip hop elements, as far as, we like to do. I love doing spoken word. With jazz. It's always been around since, I guess, the 60s. I'm probably lying, probably earlier than that. Spoken word with jazz. But, you're going to have to, if you're going to use young people, they're going to give you that lyricist style that's going to sound closer to hip-hop anyway, which I enjoy. And, of course, the dancers enjoy that, know. But, so I do have a nod to hip-hop, but definitely, as far as the dancing is concerned, the movement is thoroughly based in the jazz syllabus of dance.
So when you say talk about jazz dance, the thing that comes to my mind is swing. I always just think of the swing era because of swing dance.
Because it stopped there.
It stopped there. But now what I'm learning from you is that you mentioned Michael Jackson, you mentioned Paul Abdul. So what I'm learning from you is that all these great dancer entertainers, they all have background in classical jazz dance, and then they kind of modernized it. And
they didn't modernize it. Those steps look just like they went straight out of Bob Fosse did it, or Jerome Robbins. They'll tell you, and if they don't tell you, they're not giving a nod in the right spot. But if you look side by side, what Michael Jackson was doing in his choreography, or if you look at Bad or I don't know, Beat It or anything like that. You
Yes.
look at those dances side to side with whatever Fosse did, or maybe what Jerome Robbins might have done, or anything like that. Or if you look at West Side Story, you're looking at that. It's the same
It's the same
material,
material.
just recycled.
Yes,
Really,
yeah,
it is.
Would you say the same thing about you wouldn't say the same thing about hip hop dance today, would you?
About what? In reference to?
In reference to jazz, would you say that hip hop took a lot from jazz?
Absolutely. If you look at the Charleston,
Yeah.
those steps,
Yes.
it's all into. Oh, if you look at anything that lockers like real lockers would do. Like legitimate lockers, not the ones that do a lot of fusion, but if you look at what legitimate lockers are doing, what they had done, it took straight up out of a old Charleston movie, you know, but with the locking elements in a part of it. But the steps, it's the footwork and all that. I could drop them into a black and white video, and you're like, oh, that's where it comes. Or even the animal dance. If you look at the animal, if you're watching. Yeah, if you look at the animal dances and things like that were happening in the plantation plantation fields or in the plantation quarters, so when they did the cakewalk and things like that, you definitely see a lot of those elements in the bird, you know, or just different. I can't think of right now, but there's all kinds of different things. The black bottom, different things, shim sham, all those different steps. You definitely see in what kids are doing inherently don't even know that they're doing. It looks just like the butterfly. You're looking at steps that were done in those plantation quarters, and it's just, I feel like it's just in our blood, and we just continue to carry them on, even though we're not really saying it. But if you look back at all that old footage, you can go on YouTube. It's a wealth of, I call it the YouTube School of Dance. If you look, you look back at the YouTube School of Dance, you can see some wonderful footage of dances, or even look at old Josephine Baker stuff. You know, she really pulled in those animal dances and things like that, and brought them to life as well. So
where does tap dance come into play? Where does it fit in all this history, this ever fluid history of jazz dance?
Well, definitely it's part of the movement, because back in the day they used to put, I believe the story is they put bottle caps on the bottom of their shoes to make the taps years and years and zillion years ago, and taps. But it definitely has that the rhythms that's created with tap dance comes from the jazz rhythms that we've created in blues and swing and all that kind of stuff. Those jazz rhythms that were originally created are what creates the tap dance sounds that were created back in the day. And then, of course, as we evolve, you know, hoopers evolve and do their thing. They got their own thing going on and their own rhythms that they create, which is also an instrument. And then all the time when we were doing jazz music, there's always been tappers. There's always been tappers that would tap with the music as one of the instruments in the band, you would say. And that continues on here in New York, in LA. A lot of people, Savion Glover, Jerry Grimes, Joseph Webb, saw some great tappers here in New York. They all tap with bands, you know. I brought in tappers. Of course, they tapped with my band, Maurice Chestnut, Calvin Booker, I use as well. They tap with my band, but even I remember when I was in college, there was a guy in my class. I think he was behind me in class, like maybe a freshman or something. But he was an excellent hoofer. And then when Marsalis came to my school, and I knew a friend of Wynton Marsalis, and so I was able to be their host when they came to my college. And they were playing I remember at the Jazz House, and I had one of my dancer friends go up and dance at their band, you know, in the band, so that you can dance along. So we do this in New York, go ahead and do this. So he kind of learned a little something. We were like young little, 19-year-olds or whatever. But it still happens today. It still happens.
I was
today.
asking because a lot of the shows, a lot of like the Broadway shows, when they dance, they call it jazz dance. But most of the steps I see are like tap. the half tap.
I don't see that many tap
background.
shows on Broadway. I mean, like you see 42nd Street will come. Tap was one of my first things I learned, and I stopped doing tap personally for myself because I'm short. I can't get online for the as a rockette. And you have to be in New York at the right time in your right prime of life. To being like 42nd Street or something, because that comes in a revival once every 10 or 15 years. So if you're not in your time at that point, I guess you're not going to be on the 42nd Street Broadway show. And there, there's a couple other shows, but it's not very popular for a female to perform unless you're like Chloe Arnold. She has her own group of girls, whatever, which is fantastic. It's Aideli Castle, she too, as well. But yes, you have to carve your own niche, especially if you're a short female dancer. But
what does height have to do with it, though?
Well, for the Rockettes, that's their own parameters.
Oh, okay.
I got nothing to do with how they do it. But
I see what you mean.
I'm glad to see a couple sisters on there. That's for sure.
Yeah. but then they went and danced for Donald Trump, but that's another story altogether.
That's another interview. Don't get me started.
Okay. What I want to ask is this: would you say that maybe jazz musicians should make efforts to incorporate dancers in their shows? Because why I'm saying this is I'm a musician and I like to dance every now and then. But performances, I feel like if there are one or two dancers, good dancers, it kind of brings out, add more life to whatever is going on. But there are certain limitations too, because a lot of stages in New York don't have space for dancers.
There's a couple of things. Let me tell you, I also would love to have dance with jazz musicians. One thing I do find with a lot of choreographers though, with the whole jazz genre, because I do teach across the country, and what I see is we got these little 20-year-olds trying to teach jazz, but they're not coming from a space of jazz music. Okay, so then we have a disconnect. I feel like it's a 10-year disconnect. 15-year disconnect between the teachers that are teaching jazz now and the teachers that had taught it. Like who were my I'm like one, I'm an older dancer, but I'm young enough that I saw some of the greats before they left, and they're dead now, but but there is like a 15-year disconnect of the ones now training our young jazz dancers. So they're not learning the syllabus enough to work with the jazz musicians, because the jazz musicianship, jazz music, jazz composition is comprehensive, and it's very difficult for the ear if you're not trained to learn. Because that's why you see a lot of the if you say jazz, and the first thing a lot of the jazz teachers would think, either it's going to be pop song or it's going to be a musical theater song. Yeah. Oh, but any real musician who does jazz does not really think musical theater. I've yet to find one. They're like, we do musical theater, but it's they're not thinking that you legit as a that your jazz. But if you start doing straight ahead jazz, or you're doing some real contemporary jazz, stuff that's what they're on the level on right now. That's comprehensive, polyrhythmic, all this other stuff. We'll let you do that little freestyle, all that stuff. If you're appreciative to that, then they'll talk to you. There's your disconnect right there. So it's going to be a while. So first of all, the dancers need to come up to the plate for jazz musicians. Jazz musicians also have to let them in. Again, as you said, the opera houses here, the music, jazz clubs, they're way too small. That's why I can't really perform here in New York. I can only really perform on like jazz festivals when you got a ballroom and you got a big old floor, and we can take the ballroom floor and the jazz the band could take a little convention floor they like raised up. That's the really only place like we can really do this, or we can do it in a theater. But the issue is a lot of these theaters don't want to pay for a group of dancers to come. They're gonna want to pay for the musicians, but then that's my budget is done. They barely want to pay for the musicians.
That's if they pay for the musicians.
If they even pay. These performing arts centers clearly aren't doing enough money. No. And they keep using the same people over and over and over. I say the same heads over and over around the country. in the big houses for jazz, which is unfortunate because, like I said when I started this whole interview, you got Juilliard kids blazing, people straight out of Berkeley blazing. You ain't heard a word who they are, what they are, Universal or whoever these BMG, whoever these labels are, they'll have them for a good year or two and then spit them out, because they aren't making any money. Well, they're not, because you know what? We don't buy music anymore. We don't. True. You have to go to the club to watch it. For jazz. And the same thing for dance. You have to actually show up to a theater to watch it and pay some money at the door if it's not free, And a lot of times it is free. A free show for the community, at some festival, outside, we all hot, and your instruments melting, No one cares.
Let's talk about you. Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay, cool. So you probably developed interest in jazz when you were like young?
Absolutely, because my parents were well versed in jazz, and they kept it in the house all day long, and I couldn't run away from it. I tried really, really hard because I tried. Me too. When I left college, left dance, left ALE. That's where I trained. I'm like, I was trying to be flavor of the day as well. You know what I mean? But I got roped back into doing jazz because that's where my foundation is. So and I've always been in jazz arena as doing jazz. I never quite found my place in doing concert dance, even if I'm really well trained in concert dance, Horton vocabulary, modern type of dance like that, contemporary dance. I keep falling back into the jazz because that is my stilo. That is what I do well. There are a lot of dancers say, "Oh, I do ballet type of jazz, blah 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 blah," and I do ballet type of jazz, blah 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 blah, and hip hop and everything, and salsa and all that stuff. I do all those different dance styles, but there's always usually a dance style that you're better in. Like you might be a musician. I play saxophone, flute, and the oboe, but you're really good at that tenor sax. True. That's the lane. Yes. So I know my lane, and so I try to create my world for it. And that's why I didn't go to a band. Like, to make Jazz Ain't Dead my show. I didn't go find a band and say, "Hey, can you play my show?" No, I found the musicians that I liked, and I liked young people, and I found these musicians and I put them together. And then of course there's one other older gentleman, Lafayette Harris Jr. He helped me whip the kids in shape. Not even kids; these are 20-year-olds. But we would whip our musicians in shape to have them play so they can be legit. Because sometimes this is one issue. I'm going left, as you see, but one small issue with the jazz community as far as what I do, because I am a dance thing, and they're like, "What is this dance and all this happening?" It's kind of confusing for them to understand what's happening.
Not me.
Well, you're on the younger side. There are institutions here in New York City, quote unquote, won't tell you who it be, but I have come into contact where people are like, "Well, can you just do straight ahead? I want to, because I like doing all the other stuff." And we really jam well with the, like a jam band better. It's like more energy. It's dance. You want to see this energy on stage. And I do well with the energy thing. But they want to see straight ahead, low key, old school. They want to see that. So I had to create a whole show just for that. And I needed my Lafayette, who's my conductor, and it's like, no one can be as old as you. No one on this show can be as old as you and I. Everybody has to be young, because we have to spearhead the thing. Lafayette Harris Jr., if you know who he is, excellent guy. He's at Disney's all the time. Played with the absolute greats. He's a pianist. He's our conductor. But he brings legitimacy to my show. because he's been there for a very long time. He's also was, for his Broadway credits, he was the original musical director of Bringing Noise, Bringing the Funk. I try to like have my show be like the Bringing Noise, Bringing the Funks of jazz dance. That's why I try to make my show be like something to that effect. Well, not really, but you know, it is what it is. But but I like that element, you know, that rawness. And you know, he was the original of that. He also did the Full Monty, and he also was a musical director on The Color Purple at Broadway. The original. So, you know, so he brings that type of energy, not only to theater, but also straight ahead, legit jazz. You know what I mean? And he's brought some musicians around to me that really help get this music. Oh my God, the music situation with just getting it written down. Because we know when we write everything, you know, with the chicken scratch, you just put the, you know, the chords, you know what I mean? You know, your jazz, well, your jazz charting stuff, just chart stuff. There's no notes. So, you know, so then when you try to read it, like, and I'm the worst reading charts. I have to see the sheet music. Can I see some notes written out here so I can read this thing? You know, and so thankfully, you know, Paul Broody has helped me with that. So, well, he's an excellent bassist here in the city. You know, so we got that going on, but I had to have that just so that we could function in the city, so that people can understand what we're doing. Because we're not just, you know, jumping and jiving and do that. We're also doing the straight ahead, and yes, we can do that. But I also want to fuse it with that contemporary jazz, because that's what's being played in the clubs now. You know, people doing Michael Jackson songs and jazzing them up. You know what I mean? And then vice versa. You're taking, you know, a Michael Jackson song, jazzing it up, and then you do a jazz version of something, and then make it into a pop song. You know what I mean? Like what we do started with. I'm trying to try to do more music of pop songs and jazzing them up rather than the reverse. So you know, it's good because then the audience can connect to the music immediately because they know the song.
I want to talk more about you. So where did you get your training?
Okay, so good question. So I'm from St. Louis, and I trained. Well, I got my formal a concert dance training at Italy. That's how I got to New York, because I auditioned for the school, whatever, and you get to New York.
How long were you there for? For how long were you there?
For a couple years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's how I got to New York. Let's reverse. So I went to school in St. Louis, and I went to my cousin's school, and her name is Pelagie Green-Wren. She's just passed a couple of years ago, but she was the first Black ballerina chorus dancer at the Muni Opera House in St. Louis.
I see.
It was huge thing for that, you know, because she was light-skinned and she passed as a Black person there, and people protested her presence there as a dancer in the company. So much so that Leontine Price even sent her a message telling her to be strong and all this stuff, you know. But it was so hilarious. People would protest her outside, you know, when she's in the inside dancing for the Mini Opera House in St. Louis. And the protesters would be protesting, when we got into the theater, they wouldn't know which one is the Black dancer because she was so light. So light skinned. So who the hell they protesting?
When was this?
When was this? Let me see.
Must be like in the
50s or 60s. Yeah, it's been like that. I'll look it up for you, and then I'll tell, and then we'll give you an edit on that.
History.
I have to ask it definitely is history. When she passed, she got a shout out, I remember, from Tom Joyner in the morning for Black History. And there's some other Black History things we're talking about. But why she's so important to the dance community is because, well, she had a whole school of Black children. It was all, I don't remember any white kids go to her school, but and I guess it was later on when I left. But it was all, I guess, the middle class Black kids who can afford dance, because dance is not a cheap thing.
Yeah, it is.
If
It's
you're
expensive.
doing ballet, you need point shoes. You need ballet shoes. Point shoes expensive.
Yeah.
It's like $60 a pop. And that
Yep.
was back then. I was dancing in the 80s. Okay, like I said, Michael Jackson. You know what I mean? Tap shoes are expensive. You know, that's why great things like modern dance is good for people of all over the world, because you don't need shoes. You can dance at a t-shirt and some shorts and you're good, you know. But when it comes to ballet and those other choreographed forms, tap, you need shoes. You need a uniform, leotard, tights. But anyway, so most of your middle class kids will go there. Black children who can afford to go to dance class, and no, it's not so much, but but they would all come to this school, and high school was huge. You know what I mean? And we would have performances at the Kill Opera House. What do I want to say about one more thing? About her. One other extra thing I like to put on this podcast is about my cousin is that what was very important in Black history for dance was that she was the first Black person to ever receive a chorus contract.
Chorus contract.
A chorus contract.
Okay.
A union chorus contract as a dancer.
As a dancer. What does that mean?
That means you got a unionized job with a paycheck and a salary as a Black dancer in a white company.
Yeah.
That never happened before. There were Black dancers, Black ballet companies, Black dance companies. There was even Catherine Dunham's company, but they weren't giving you a chorus contract with the union.
Yeah.
That's a difference. To be in a regional theater house, that's a difference. So to be the first Black person to receive that, that's kind of big. And no one ever knew that. I didn't know that till she died. And when her partner got up there, one of her early dance partners, ballet dancer. At this point, I'm sorry that I'm forgetting his name, but I'll look it up for you and get that for you information if you want. He got up for the people come up to say some remarks at the funeral, and he got up and he said that history, and I was like, what? I always knew that she was like a first Black ballerina, but I did not know that specific piece of history, and that's very important because having a job and performing unionized, that's big, and it's big now to anybody.
Did she train? Did she train you?
Yes, she trained me. Okay. And then so I got my, I had to move on. I went to Missouri Concert Ballet. At the time, it was called, I think it's called Dance St. Louis now, but it was under Ludmila Dukadisky and Antonio Zaloweski. I had trained there, and I also trained with Jerry Stretz doing competition. I was a competition kid as well. And then... and I also trained, very important, I trained with Ray Parks, who I think really kind of like how I doing my jazz dancing. Yeah. From him and my cousin Pelagie, I totally see them in my dance. Nice. I totally see them in my dance to this day. To this day. It was the foundations that they had instilled in me. Is what I still use as my syllabus, because that is the jazz syllabus, was what they was giving me at that time. And then I went to college, and while I was at college...
Where did you go to college?
University of Kansas. Okay. Not too far away from St. Louis.
Yeah.
I got a 4-year scholarship, so that's why I went. But
you were the
well, I mean, unfortunately, I wish I shouldn't say this, but it's the only place I auditioned for, and I got to, and it told me right away about the scholarship, so I said, oh, okay, so I just go here. So
4-year scholarship for dance. That's dope. That's not easy.
No. But while I was there, I had the Friends of Alvin Ailey had an audition in Kansas City, and my roommate and I drove back into Kansas City, Missouri, and we were in Lawrence, Kansas, but drove me to Kansas City, Missouri, dropped me off, and I auditioned to get into the school. And so that's how I got to New York. And I've been in New York ever since, actually. So I was doing that, and I trained there.
So you came here because of Alvin Ailey?
Yeah, because of the school. Just like what I do now. right now, I kind of like pay it forward. I'm doing the exact same thing how I got to New York to this day. I work for Joffrey Ballet School now.
Okay.
And I'm in their jazz and contemporary department, and I get the wonderful thing. I feel like I make dreams come true. I go around the country and I audition students to come to New York and train at the Joffrey Ballet School in the Jazz and Contemporary department. So I actually teach the audition. I teach the dance number, and then we adjudicate, and I offer scholarships to some who can.
Nice.
And but I do this. All through the winter time, I teach. I'm getting ready to go on tour soon, and I bring the kids in, and I also do it the summertime. But we're bringing them for the summer school, and then from there they can hopefully train with us as a trainee, in New York, and do exactly how I did. I did it in Ailey, but it's the exact same thing I did it. We're doing here at Joffrey, because when you come to New York, that's when you start creating your friends. You start creating your musician friends that you want to collaborate with, and you start finding out which choreographers you want to be with, for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Basically, because you're gonna get a lot of like this little plug for Joffrey. When I was teaching in the summertime, we had over 90 choreographers that came to the school to teach these kids. So I'm like, I wish I had a Joffrey when I was 19, 20 years old. because of the fact that you're able to play with different choreographers and sample which ones you like and which ones you don't like. There's choreographers that are brilliant, but you try to do their choreography, you look like a total whack-a-mole. Like, well, what the crap am I trying to do? I say, you look great, but this is not look good on my body. You know what I mean? And then you got choreographers who are absolutely brilliant, and their stuff looks great on you. And you're like, I want to travel to the ends of the earth with you, because I know that we will always look good together. And then there's choreographers whose choreography looks absolutely great on you, but are complete a-holes. And you're like, I can't work with this person for the rest of my natural life.
I totally understand.
But you don't know that unless you sample each of these people. And that's the coolest thing about having so many come down in a place as beautiful as New York. And that's why I haven't moved yet. But
how long have you been in New York?
For over 20 years.
Wow.
Since 94.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I've only been here. This is my 4th year, actually. I lived in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Okay, let's quickly go through a few things. You mentioned the work you do in Puerto Rico. I don't want us to forget about that. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So like I said before, I travel around the country and I do auditions, but not just that. I travel around the country and I teach in different schools all over the country, who just my personal clients, just doing choreography or just teaching master classes. And started several years ago, I believe in 2014, I started teaching in Puerto Rico. And to a gorgeous school called Mauro Youth Ballet. And Mauro, M-A-U-R-O, Mauro Youth Ballet. And they're an excellent training school. It's the directors are Ario Anindo and his wife, Marina S. Perez. She is actually very recent former principal dancer of the National Ballet Theater of Puerto Rico, or how do you say it, Ballet Teatro de Nacional. Gorgeous dancer. So when the kids, what you don't see sometimes a lot, the teacher doesn't always do everything full out. This lady does it full out because she can. So it's gorgeous. You see every detail. These kids are so lucky, and they're trained so crazy well, like excellent technicians. And why I wanted to talk about them is that when I was there, just this last time I was there, and I never ever had to use the restroom there. Before I start that story, they just moved to a new facility in 2015, and they were building the floors and the walls and all that good stuff to make additional studios within this new building. And what I thought was so incredibly fantastic is Aria, the director, had the boys like build it with saws and drills and hammers, actually a new studio space. I don't see that happen here in New York City. A bunch of guys doing it, but he had them doing it there. These ballet boys, and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. This is love for your own school. You know, not taking advantage of it, trying to take everything you got and bleed it to death. You're actually you're investing your life into this school. And that's what I just loved about that. And so anyway, side note, so I'm over here, I'm teaching, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go to the restroom, and they're telling me blah 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 blah, you know, the accent, I kind of miss some words. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go, and I'm running into the bathroom. There's two next to each other, and I kind of like go do my business, and I leave a gift, and I can't flush the toilet, and I'm like, oh, and I can't wash my hands. Oh, but I see this big old sanitizer thing. Oh, something must be wrong today with the toilet, so I'm washing my hands. So I come out, I go, oh, Marina, I'm so sorry. I just tell you, I left a little gift in the toilet, you know, but I'm so sorry. You were trying to tell me something. I didn't ignore you, but I just didn't understand. You probably was trying to tell me, go to the other restroom. That one probably was working. She goes, oh, no, don't worry about it. We're used to it. It's okay. Like, what? You're used to it? And you're like, no, we're okay. We're used to it. These folks were outside collecting rainwater with these cut off jugs of Diet Coke, you know, Coke and Pepsi outside, you know, milk jugs. They collecting the rainwater just to flush their toilets. This is before the hurricanes. Okay, these kids are up here with no running water.
And this is part of America.
This is America. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I didn't notice this because I'm in the lap of luxury at my beautiful hotel on the Strip. With hot water, a hot water shower every day. This is my day every day. I'll get up, go to the beach out in front of my window, tan, do my thing, take a dip in the ocean, run back, take a hot, steamy shower, and then I go and teach. That's my day every day. Love it. Okay. And I did not know because I didn't leave the sanctity of the tourist strip. That they didn't have running water in the school. And then when I started venturing out in the clubs and going to, you know, the bars and things and the restaurants off the Strip, not on, you know, Condado, I was like off the Strip, you know. That's when I'm like, why is everybody, like, I noticed that I couldn't flush the toilet half the time and there was no water coming out. Like, I said, people sure love their hand sanitizer, like these big old bottles. It didn't come to mind to me that they didn't have running water because in my own hotel and every day I was getting running water. So that's what they would try to cover and mask was really on the government there. But I'm like, running water, that's federal. That's federal government. That's us in America not taking care of our own. Years have passed. It's been 100 years since since we had a territory up in this joint. Okay, we should have been taking care of that electricity a long time ago, and we should have been giving them a way to have running water all the time. You know, can't say, oh, we're in debt, blah blah blah. No, that's federal. If Chicago up and go, we don't have running water. You better trust and believe the federal government gonna come and make sure Chicago got some freaking running water. That don't make no freaking sense to me. You know what I mean? At all. And to be American citizens, this is not a third world nation. Why are my kids training like they're in a third world nation? Why am I coming up fresh every day with soap on my body, and you got kids coming up in here in the heat? It's 90 degrees every day, sweating, doing excellent technique as a ballet dancer. You know, I don't understand that. Meanwhile, I go around the country teaching solos and competition routines and dance company stuff to kids with spending thousands of dollars on the costumes, thousands of dollars on their lessons, money on these point shoes, a new pair of point shoes every 3 or 4 weeks, you know, thousands, and they still dancing clanky, dancing like a hot mess. And then you got these kids over here training their butts off with perfect technique with no freaking hot water to bathe in. That's the problem. This is America. And that's why I'm like, when the hurricanes hit, My girlfriend Morena, I didn't know where she was.
Oh.
And I was able to get in touch with the brother of her husband solely because he's active military. I believe he's in Georgia. I think he's in Georgia. Anyway, he's on Facebook. So, but he's here in America, mainland. So, because he's in the mainland, I was able to get in touch with him, and we are trying to set up ways so I can get some money to them. I said, well, what happened? Are they okay? So, yeah, I was able to get in touch with them. They lost the ceiling. They lost a wall, but they're okay. The school is standing, all this stuff. And then he goes, but Morena, she lost all her dance clothes. She only thing she had was those point shoes she had when she had, she saved her point shoes because she put them in her emergency bag before she left for the hurricanes. She didn't have those point shoes in her emergency bag. She wouldn't have point shoes at all.
Yeah.
This is a professional dancer who performs every week. So I'm like, what the? I said, tell her I got you. So I went into my closet. We're the same size. Got on my little small belt. Leotards, got us some dance pants, my leggings, my warm-ups, my sweaters, whatever, my dance sweaters, put them in the box, actually two boxes, and sent them to Puerto Rico for her so she can have dance clothes. And I'm like, wait a minute, if she don't have dance clothes, the teacher, what about the children?
Yes, yeah.
So then I call up into the dance teacher network, and the dance teachers across the country went in force. They came up. I said, please help me. Do you have any outgrown leotards from your children, your dance studios, who can't even fit these things anymore? All these little ballet shoes, your slippers, point shoes, whatever. We're taking it. Can you donate that? They said, yes, Candice, I got you. Dancers. I had over 90 dance teachers respond, sending in their stuff. I got Capizio as well, which is if you know anything about dance, is a big dance manufacturer. They're sending 10 boxes. I got Weissman's making sure that each child get a brand new leotard and type as a uniform, so they can all look uniform again. They shouldn't look a raggedy. It's because you in Puerto Rico, you shouldn't look raggedy in ballet. Ballet is very codified. It's like the army. We gotta look together. Okay, buns in hand. Okay, so each child is getting a leotard and a tights. I'm trying to talk to some other places. Hopefully, big ballet companies. I'm calling you in because I want some point shoes. You only use those point shoes once or twice in your shows. Please, I want your gently used point shoes to be donated. I got Kansas City Ballet also working on this. I have Billy Elliott.
Where can they donate it though?
They can donate at www.gofundme.com/Morrow Youth Ballet.
Nice.
One more shout out. Oh shoot, that's my thing. One more shout out to Shelly Hutchinson of New Moves. New Moves here in New York City. We had a fundraiser. We were able to donate $1,066. We donated to Morrow Youth Ballet, and because I was able to put that money into Banco Popular here in New York City.
Awesome.
She was able to make payroll for these teachers because the teachers have been teaching for free.
Oh my gosh.
Ever since the hurricanes, because the kids need normalcy.
Yes.
This is how ridiculous some of these people are. I'm asking people who are raising money to get the UNICEF or the Red Cross or whoever to throw their money into the wind. They don't know where this direct dollars are coming to for Puerto Rico. I'm asking, I know you're raising money for your hip hop show or your Latin show or your salsa, party. Can you please give me a portion, a small portion? I don't care if it's $100 to these kids. It's direct money, so that they can continue to have class. Because these kids are still having class every day. Some kids, God forbid what's happened to their homes, but they're still getting to class.
Yes.
Because in some places, they're not even having school. They're not in school right now. There's no public school open. But the dance school was there so they can keep coming to class and, have and keep normalcy. Because that's mental anguish.
Yes.
When you can't do what you need to do. So anyway, they say, oh, I need to give it to A, like we need medicine, this and that. I say, yeah, we do. But, don't forget the children.
That's good.
Not asking for a lot,
That's a great thing you're doing. Yeah. Before we round up, I just want to come back to your show. Let's
yes, my approach to creating the show and how we come up with these crazy things. But basically, when I teach jazz to students, usually when they come out of their conservatories or their dance schools or local dance schools, the teachers are very my way or the highway, especially if you come out of a ballet school. But it's my way or the highway, or they're coming out of a drill team environment or a competition environment where everything has to be exactly perfect to your neighbor. Like it must look just like the person dancing next to you.
Yeah.
Within my show, though, completely the opposite. So I try to make sure that each dancer is completely different from each other. I tell them that when they're doing a show of mine, they absolutely must not look like their neighbor next to them.
Wow. Yeah. I'm shocked because that kind of captures the individuality in jazz, and at the same time it captures the improvisational spirit that's embedded behind jazz.
Like I tell them you're not a real true jazz dance artist unless you're able to embellish upon the choreography that's given to you. I tell them that my choreography is simply a guide. Okay. Yes, the steps are there, you know, but you have, especially if you're doing a solo with my choreography, a lot of times I repeat the patterns just like how a jazz musician would. So let's say you're a jazz musician, you're playing Summertime, you got your saxophonist, you got your trumpet player, you got your pianist, okay? Everybody has their own solo, okay? The melody is the melody, but the way they approach it or do it, it's their own way. It's never going to be the same way twice. It's never going to be the same way each night. It's going to be how they feel in their mood. Like my trumpet player, I remember he was in the middle of a horrible breakup, off again with his, you know, your significant other. Anyway, so sometimes people punching it, punch the song, and then sometimes you're playing it really long notes. You know what I mean? And sometimes you're like really, you know, happy with it, and sometimes melancholy. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's really lyrical with it. You as a dancer can't be the same every time. You can't do the exact count way that I had taught it to you, because you have to keep your ears open and dance how that musician is playing that lyric. You just can't be a robot. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So you really have to be an artist as a dancer.
Is an artist. Yeah, the musician is just like deeply in the jazz spirit of improvisation, while still paying attention to everything that's going on in the band. I really like that. I really like that.
And definitely also when you have jazz musicians that really pay attention and not just in their own little world of improvisation, which is fantastic. And so we had to play off of them. But it's even more wonderful when both the singer and the musician and the dancer can play off each other with a call and response, even though they're still doing the melody at the same time. If they're listening, like one of my singers I love, Kenyatta Coffee, and whenever we do Summertime, we do Summertime 3 different ways. We do Summertime as a house version, which is our signature piece. We do Summertime as a burlesque version with a big boa and a solo dancer and a spoken word artist. And we do Summertime as a gorgeous like gospel duet pas de deux, you know, slow pas de deux between a man and a male and a female. So it's gorgeous and loving, it's beautiful, you know, the heavens come down, you know, that type of thing. So we do it 3 different ways, depends on what my flavor is of that day. But anyway, you have to, you know, be open to that. And I love how this one girl, Kenyatta Coffee, when she sings it, she would watch you and ride you. She would make the dancer ride that music because she goes, she's giving that pulse and pulse. So she's watching the dancer. So she's playing off the dancer, what they're doing. So the dancer has to react. The dancer can't be like off. He's like, oh man, let me move. Oh my God. You know, because she's giving you that gospel, big gospel house drive. I love her because she's a bona fide blues singer, bona fide big mama house, that kind of gospel singer voice, big voice. So it will make you do things that you didn't know you could do as a dancer, only because she's bringing it out of you, because, you know, she's bringing that. And then you got the ones that really know how to, like my Rogers Charles. I got him when he was like 19. He's a prodigy when I got him. Came out of new school. That boy, he be playing his little he was I said alto sax. He's an alto sax player. He'd be playing that little thing, and ripping it up and down, rip. I mean, he's just so fun and free.
Yeah.
It just makes you want to move.
Wow.
So you just can't, as a dancer, be off, because that annoys the hell out of me when I watch other people's shows. I tell my young people when I teach master classes throughout the country, I tell them to repeat after me, and they repeat after me, and I go, and I have them put their right finger up, and I say, when I dance, they go, when I dance, I said, I will. And they go, I will. Look like music. And they're like, look like music.
Wow.
So I want them to say, when I dance, I will look like music. That is my mantra. And that's the mantra I want them to have. Because trust and believe, they'll look like robots every day and think that's great. And I'm like, trust and believe, the audience watching you will be like, oh, that's nice.
Yes.
But you want that audience to be with you when you dance. You want them to get up off their feet, and if not, if they're sitting there, be like, yes, put a hand out, talk to you, because in jazz, it's there is no fourth wall. We communicate as musicians and as dancers to the audience, and the audience must respond with, yes, tell me, God, amen. Ooh, go ahead, girl. Yeah, that's right, boy. I hear you. You want to have that communication, and it should be open, it should be loud.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
You said initially when we started talking, you mentioned incorporating some African influences to what you do. Because I'm Nigerian. I'm from Nigeria. I'm West African. So I know a lot about West African dance. I learned a few things. How do you do that?
Well, definitely with the jazz syllabus, our jazz dancing, what we do.
Because, sorry to cut you short. Because I'm asking because, like you said, hip-hop got a lot from jazz, but at the same time I see a lot of African music in hip-hop.
Oh yeah, definitely. African music and hip-hop. If you
like African dance, and I see it in hip-hop, I see it.
Absolutely.
I even see it in what Michael Jackson does. So can you say a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So as I say, in the jazz, when I say syllabus, I mean the jazz types of dance movements, and that's we call as, when you're looking at jazz steps, there's specific jazz steps, hinges and pelvic movement and arm movement or whatever. Okay, and that's that you can see across pretty much all jazz dancing.
Yeah.
Okay, so however, because it did come from the slave quarters, there's going to be movement in there that came directly from West Africa, and you're going to see some like a manjani rhythm I use a lot within my jazz music. And then and a new piece that we did last summer for the Harlem Arts Festival, we did Afro Blue. I get the Mango Santa Maria version, but the one that Raj Delari Barnes, hey girl, her name's Landell, she's got married, so anyway, but she did a arrangement that we did that's that African 5/2, the 12/8, rhythm. It's kind of like, it has also a nod to footprints too.
Okay, by Wayne Shorter.
Yes. So, but it's dun 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 dun. That's that movement, which to me says dance too, which is not a regular movement time signature that most usually we do a 4/4, 3/4 time for jazz dancing. To do that is extra special. So the music, the movement, I definitely try to do a little Yoruba in there as well, into the Afro Blue piece that I created. You will see that little Cuban, all that stuff is from diaspora.
But quick plug for your show. When does it play? And how do we get tickets and all those things?
Well, this
is Jazz Ain't Dead.
Jazz Ain't Dead. We're looking for bookings.
Okay.
So we're looking for bookings. People that can pay enough money for all our jazz musicians. You're looking at a show for about 20 people. So we have our jazz musicians. We can do a little smaller, but if you want the Jazz Ain't Dead in its beautiful luxury.
Yes. Okay. All right. I'm gonna put links to the show and everything about you on the website of the podcast. Hopefully, you'll be hearing from some people who knows.
Oh, please do. But usually when I do Jazz Ain't Dead, usually me and maybe another partner will come out and we'll perform, and I'll bring a couple of my jazz musicians and we'll like sit in and we'll do it that way because it's more feasible for a lot of people to pay for the show, but to do the huge show, that's a production commitment.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm just gonna put links to your website and people who check it.
www.jazzaintdead.com.
Nice. Thank you so much, Candice.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the podcast. Nice. Later.
So